So, good morning, everyone. What a great morning. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to be the one welcoming everyone. And so, welcome. And thank you for joining us here. We are joined today by the Senator Elizabeth Warren. Let's hear it. And we have, I want to say, first of all, thank you to GCC for making this happen. So they need a big round of applause as well. And welcoming all of our elected officials who are here today. We have Representative Natalie Blais, Representative Susanna Whips, Representative Lindsay Sabadosa, Representative Paul Mark, soon to be Senator Mark, for some of you. And we have Town Administrator Steve Ellis, Town Administrator Andrea Lamas, and we have Elena Cohen from Joe Comerford's office, Senator Comerford's office. So thank you for being here. And I'm going to be very brief, as I prefer to be, but I just want to recognize all the good work that the Senator does and has done. Senator Warren, as we know, is on the forefront in the battle for our democracy, which is very tenuous right now. And we want to make sure she's acknowledged for that, along with her Democratic colleagues. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Greenfield Community College. And watch the sound. There we go. And hello, friends. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the introduction. Thank you. Mayors are the people who have the hardest jobs in America. So we want to, I got to watch my sound. So we want to be sure to say thank you for the work you do every single day. Thank you. So first, we got to do the most important thing of getting together in a democracy, and that is the selfie. So instead of doing the individuals, which we can't do anymore, kind of in what I'm now told is called COVID-endemic America, what we're going to do is a group one. So I'll manage, and then we'll post it online, okay? So, it is so good to be here with all of you. You know, I go down to Washington. I'm so proud to represent you there and to be from Massachusetts. But I gotta say, Saturday morning, it's beautiful out. This is a gorgeous area. There are about 1 million terrific things you could be doing. And instead, you're here to talk about our democracy. Thank you very much. You really make me proud. So, I come to you at a time really of celebration. I know there's a lot that's gone wrong. I know there are huge threats to our democracy, threats here at home, threats around the world. Ukraine under assault, a former president of the United States who appears to have put our national security at risk and individuals at risk, a whole attack on our democratic system. But at the same moment, we've been out there fighting. You and me and lots of other folks just fighting to make this country a little fairer, a country that attacks the problems that we face collectively. And today I get to come to you and talk about some real successes. And the first one I just got to say is student loan debt. On Thursday morning, 20 million Americans woke up, and for the first time in their adult lives, they owe nothing to the federal government on their student loans. And an additional 23 million Americans owe less than they did before. And I just want to spend 1 second on who those folks are. 40% of them do not have a college diploma. You got to remember who ends up with student loan debt. It's people who sign up for beauty school. It's people who go to air conditioning repair and maintenance classes. It's truck drivers. It's people who are waiting tables. It's people who are working 3 jobs at the nursing home. That's a huge part of who owes student loan debt in this country. And of those who do make it through and get diplomas, understand this. You go to a place like Harvard, 2%. Borrow any money at all, even a single dollar, to go to school. You go to a state school, it's over half. And you go to an historically black college or university, and it's over 80%. Higher ed, instead of being something that creates more opportunities for everyone, has increasingly become a divider. Those whose families could afford to write a check do great, and everybody else ends up with the ball and chain of debt. So the President of the United States took the first big step in fighting back against that and canceled a big chunk of student loan debt for 43 million Americans. Yes. Yes. And we have more to celebrate. Just the week before, the FDA finally got the final regulations out on my bill to make hearing aids available over the counter. They'll be sold over the counter next month. And for any of you who said, what did she just say? I saw you over there in the blue shirt, right? You said, what did she say? I just want to say a quick word about that. 20 million Americans have hearing loss that could be helped with aids. But the problem is fewer than 1 in 5 actually get them because they are expensive. A pair can cost somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000. And why? Not because the electronics are complicated. Think about your phone that costs a whole lot less than that and does a whole lot more. The reason is because basically we've had an oligopoly. Just a handful of manufacturers who's managed to control local laws so these aids can't be sold and develop a real market to make it work. So this is the bill that I got through. That's going to break, and what we're going to see is more people who can afford to buy hearing aids. So I'm celebrating that. Okay, we're going back a week at a time. And the week before that, the Inflation Reduction Act. Can you believe it? A 40% reduction in carbon emissions over the next 8 years. This is historic. And, oh, best of all, paid for by my 15% minimum tax on billionaire corporations that have been paying little or nothing. Yes. I love it. Yes. And one more in that, and that is reducing the costs of prescription drugs for seniors. It'll take us a couple of years to get there, but there's going to be a $2,000 annual cap on what people on Medicare have to spend on prescription drugs. And for the first time ever, we're going to have Medicare negotiating prescription drug prices. And look, I just just want to say to all of you on that particular one, I get it. It's modest. It comes in over time. It's only 10 drugs in the first year, 10 more in the second year, and so on. But understand this. I'm not the only one. There have been a ton of Democrats out there arguing for a long time that we need to permit Medicare to negotiate prescription drugs. I mean, everybody understands this, and Democrats have been fighting for it. Every time you raise it in Congress, the lobbyists swoop in, and they put a stop to it. And I'm just going to be blunt, and every time they win. This is the first time Big Pharma has lost. I see the crack in the ceiling here. Another part of the IRA is about insulin. Anybody here have to take insulin or know somebody who's diabetic? Yeah, love somebody, work with somebody who's diabetic. It's all of us, right? The bill originally had a $35 a month cap for everybody on insulin. Now the Republicans, they're out there. They know who they fight for. They stripped out the cap for everybody not on Medicare. Yeah, but we were able to keep it in for the Medicare. We couldn't get a single Republican vote in favor of it, but at least for Medicare recipients, the cost of insulin is going to be capped at $35, and that's a good thing. Okay, and one more. The week before that, we passed something that I call the Chips and Science Bill. And I call it that because there was a lot of talk about the chips portion. This is about onshoring our supply chain for the silicon chips that go into everything now, into cars and everything. And I'm all in favor of that. But it's 4 times as much support that goes into basic scientific research. We are doubling the NSF's budget for the next 5 years. This will pay dividends for decades. And it particularly means a lot to me because some of you, because I actually recognize some faces here, may have been here when I first ran for Senate in that crazy campaign in 2012 that I started out, is it possibly be down 148 points or something, whatever it was. But one of the things I talked about is the importance of investing in basic science, that this is something we need to do as a nation. And 4 weeks ago, we made a huge commitment in that direction. So, you can see why it is that I'm here today to celebrate. We have good ideas that are good for people, ideas where we fight from the heart, and by golly, as the last month has shown, we can actually get something done. So, and with that, Paul, you want to come up here? I've got Paul Marks. You've seen I saw your signs out on the way. Yes. Paul Marks, who's going to keep this rowdy crowd under control as we do our questions. Paul, up to you.
Well, thank you, Senator, and thank you so much for asking me to moderate this. What a great honor. It's probably my last official event in Greenfield as your rep. So.
No.
Oh, thank you. So the ground rules are, if you took a ticket, I have a bunch of tickets here. I'm going to pull out 4 at a time. If I pull your number, please come up to our friend with the microphone who's right here in front of me. If we can have a drum roll.
Yeah. Come on, guys. Why are they always quiet? Just when you want them to speak up. Okay.
936-351. 936-346.
Just do the last 3 numbers again.
Okay. 266.
Do we have a 266? Anybody? Oh, we got one. Okay. Somebody who just biked in. Yeah. What else we got?
352.
352.
Over here.
352? Great. No, over that way.
Yeah, come over.
That's
here.
okay. Tall guy. All right, read us some more numbers.
So did anyone have 351?
Great.
Okay.
Make your way down.
Did anyone have 266?
266. Do we have a 266? Don't be shy.
Official.
All right, keep going.
346.
351. You 351.
346. Anybody? Come on now.
325.
325.
I'll hold the mic for you.
Where did these numbers come from? Okay.
Kind of ask her about
So you win $20 too.
Yeah, I was going to say we have to put some incentives on the table here.
322.
unequivocally.
322? 322? 322?
280. This is bizarre. 283.
So it is. Oh, come on. Here we go. Come on. Did I lose this?
They're looking at the drone.
Oh, we have a drone? It's not
How about
a
290? Yay, 290.
All
All
right,
right.
290. You broke our spell here. Oh, we got somebody else. Is that right? You got one? Great. Okay, you got 4 on deck.
Excellent.
All right, let's get started.
Gee, Senator, thanks for coming. This is a great event you're
Oh,
having here.
thank you. I'm
So glad I
delighted to be
came.
here. Tell me your name.
Mark Dorsey.
Hi, Mark.
From Springfield, Mass. You grew up in Wayzata, Minnesota with one of your comrades, Amy Klobuchar.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly. Right.
I can tell from the accent. You and Amy sound alike.
A question I had was
Sure.
on the recent appointment of Superior Court Judge Claudine Cloutier to the bench in the state of Massachusetts.
Uh-huh.
Her stance on abortions. Could you comment on that, please?
Look, I'm pro-choice. Is there anybody who's surprised about that? And I think those are the judges we need. I'm very concerned when we have judges that are out of step with kind of the basic principles of what we stand for in this country. I watched as the current Supreme Court justices, one after another, stood there and said, until the world looks level, oh, Roe versus Wade is settled precedent, and I don't, we wouldn't want to disturb that. And then as soon as they got the numbers, came in, obviously, and wiped out Roe versus Wade. So, you know, I think we need judges that are a little more where the mainstream of America is. We've got an extremist Supreme Court, and it's not going to work for us. Thank you. Thanks very much, Mark. Yeah.
The kid from Wayzata.
I love it.
Amy, I said hello.
Okay, will do.
Hi there.
Good question. Hi.
I'm Peter Flynn.
Hi,
and
Peter
I
Flynn.
live just over there, here in Greenfield. Have you read the book, The Deficit Myth?
Nope.
Heard of it? All right. Well, it posits the basic idea that since the Federal Reserve can actually print its own money, that it's not on the gold standard, it's not on the silver standard, it makes its own money, that it doesn't really rely on us to pay our taxes in order to pay for programs that it is paying for, that they are kind of separate streams of revenue, that the idea is we pay our taxes so there isn't too much money out here and inflation doesn't go wild, but if the federal government wants to pay for anything, it just can't because it just makes its own money. Is that, in your way of thinking, a legitimate hypothesis, or is that kind of wacky extreme liberalism?
Well, look, I haven't read the book, so I really shouldn't be commenting on it, except to say that the two pieces you identify are right. We pay taxes as a discipline to make sure that we don't put too much money into circulation, and also as a way to distribute how we share the burden of running this country. There are things that cost money, right? It costs money to run our schools. It costs money to build our highways. It costs money to keep our military in the field. And part of what troubles me is less about what the underlying theory is, because like I say, I haven't read this book, but more about how far out of whack our federal taxation system has gotten. So that it's working class families, it's middle class families that are paying the huge bulk of running this nation. And just to pick up the example I was talking about a minute ago, we had around 55 companies last year that we have data for that reported publicly under the sworn statements you have to do because the SEC requires them, because they're big publicly traded companies, made more than $1 billion in profits. And that's what they reported to Wall Street, and that's how they did their CEO pay, and that's how they pounded their chests on what a great job they were doing, and then turned around and reported to the federal government that they made zero in profits and they ended up paying little or nothing in taxes. And that is a broken system that has to be fixed. And one of the most exciting parts of this, I've been fighting for this one for a long time, one of the most exciting parts of this Inflation Reduction Act is we actually got the piece into law that says if you make more than $1 billion, underline B, in profits, that you report publicly audited financials, then you at least have to pay 15% minimum tax. And that raises more than enough money to pay for our entire climate initiative and help pay down the national debt. So I'm just going to stick with the debt part, the taxes part. Is that okay? Good. Thank you. It's a good question. I'll check the book out. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Hi.
Hi, sorry, my voice. My name is Pat Stevenson. I live up in Shelburne Falls, which
Hi,
is about
Pat.
4.5 miles from here.
Uh-huh.
First of all, I want to say I like women who kick ass, so continue to do it.
Thank you. You know, Pat, I couldn't stop if I wanted, so thank you.
So I was recently appointed to an energy committee for the town of Shelburne Falls. We're working through Mass Save, and one of our primary goal is to decarbonize.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, with the new climate bill that was just signed by President Biden, is there going to be any financial incentives to get small rural communities like ours to put in charging stations?
Yes. And let me just say, it's not only charging stations. There's money in there. Now, look, you got to get your plans together. You've got to compete for the money. It's not automatic. The federal government will not come knock on your door and say, please, let me build you a charging station. But if you get organized and get out there and apply for it, there are real opportunities. But I want to mention a second one, and that is, we have been putting in incentives for a while now to try to get more solar, to get people to move to solar. But the problem has been towns couldn't take advantage of it because they were all a tax incentive and towns don't pay taxes, right? We have shifted that in this new bill to say it is what's called a refundable tax credit, which actually means to the extent you can move to solar on public buildings, think about your public schools, then the federal government will put financial incentives in for that as well. So we're going to do this. We're going to get ourselves decarbonized.
Yes, well, we just got a grant to do solar on Mohawk Trail Regional
There
School
we go.
District.
There we go. That's fabulous. Thank you. And thank you for your work. Thank you. You bet. Okay. Hi. Tell me your name.
My name is Sabina Dusenberry.
It's
I'm
nice to
from
see you.
Furnace Falls.
All right. Good to see you, Sabina.
Nice to see you and seeing all that passion that you have for everything you do. I wanted to find out, I heard that a lot more IRS inspectors have been hired, but it seems like they're going after more the small people again than the really big corporation.
Okay. You've been watching Fox News.
No,
look,
NPR. I'm really a believer in NPR.
So let's talk about that, okay? Because I was talking about the part in the tax provisions about the minimum corporate tax that I'm really excited about. But I want you all to know, I was also fighting to increase the budget of the IRS. And here's the reason why. Guess who doesn't pay their taxes? Not just the rich. Come on. The really rich, the ultra rich, are and the giant corporations. But here's the problem. Do you know how hard it is to figure out they didn't pay their taxes? and to come in after them, because these are the folks who can hire a zillion lobbyists and a zillion lawyers. The lobbyists make sure there are little tiny loopholes all the way through, and the lawyers come in and they give, 5 different layers of what kind of corporation you are and who owns this in order to make it complex. But the reality is now that independent observers are saying that literally our nation is losing tens of billions of dollars in tax revenues every year because of the people at the top who don't pay their taxes. So what this is for is this money is coming in to do 2 things. The first one is so they can afford to hire the folks and keep them there long term who dig in on the hard questions on taxes for the big corporations and for the billionaires. And indeed, the current commissioner of the IRS, who was a Donald Trump appointee, confirmed by the Senate and is still there, this guy has said that's all we're spending this money on in terms of increasing the number of audits. We're actually using it to investigate the people at the top who are not paying and the corporations that are not paying. There's one other thing that's in this bill, though, that I've been fighting for a long time, and it's something called free file. Think about it this way. The IRS already has the information on your W-2, right? They already know what's already been reported independently. And they know the number of children you've got, if you have, how many dependents you're claiming. Instead, what happens right now in America is, though, you've got to fill out a form. That goes into the IRS, and you're going to love this. What's the principal job of the IRS? It's to see if the numbers you reported match up with the numbers that were reported by your employer. And they spend a bucket of time and money tracking down that you reported $10 more, that your employer reported $100 more, trying to get those to line up. And a huge proportion of the time, it's just a small mistake. Somebody miscopied something, somebody made a little mistake. But you gotta have it right? That's the deal. So what free file is about is to say the IRS should start by populating the form. We call it, just put a very simple form and says, this is what we have for you. This is what we have from your W-2. This is what we have for the number of dependents. If you take standard deduction, here's what you either get by way of refund or here's what you owe. If you want that, if you accept that and say that sounds right to me, punch yes, and you are done. You spend no more time. You're done. Now, I've been fighting for this since I first got in Congress. Guess who's opposed? TurboTax, H&R Block, right, have fought it and fought it and fought it. And look, be clear, if you don't think it's right, you think they don't have the right dollars or you don't think they have the right number of dependents, you just say no and then fill out the form just like you would anyway, and that's fine. But one of the things that's in this bill is the money to start the IRS on the path of doing free file. It's not going to work for people who have complex forms. It's not designed to. But that can work for ordinary working people who can do their taxes in just a few minutes. They don't have to spend $200 or $300 to get somebody to fill them out, and they don't have to worry about making mistakes. So that's the other part that's in there. Good government. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to call 3 more names, or did they shut my mic?
You need mine?
I'm going to
Yeah.
call up 3 more numbers before this gentleman asks his
Just so
question.
they're on deck.
333.
Anybody? 333?
323.
323?
263.
You're in the threes. 263? Keep going.
347.
We'll wait them out here. 347. Anybody? Wave if you've got a number.
All right, we got one.
There
way
we
in the
go.
back. Yep.
Super.
272.
Great. 272. Come on up here. I think we've got 3, it looks like, headed our way. 2
You
headed
got
our
3?
way.
273.
273. We got a 273? Here we go, right up here.
Good.
There we go. All right, we got some on deck. Hi, thanks for being patient, standing in the sun.
Sure. Hi, my name is Will Cosby. I'm from Hawley,
Hi, Will.
Massachusetts.
It's nice
Hello.
to see you.
I know we have an epidemic beyond the pandemic, and that is the gun violence epidemic in the United States. I personally would like to see an amendment proposed that would abolish the Second Amendment. I would like to see, having failed that, I'd like to see us return to the ban on assault weapons, which might be easier, if not easy, but certainly more achievable, given that they're really not a hunting weapon or a personal defense weapon. Can you comment on that? Would
You bet I
take a
can.
leader position on that, please?
So, let me just start with what gun violence means in America. We are losing people every day. We lose people, we talk about the mass shootings, those are the ones that get some of the headlines. We also lose people just, there's a shooting. People get mad and somebody shoots somebody. We also lose people to domestic violence. And we also lose people to self-inflicted harm. And all of it, people get mad. People get unhappy, people get angry, but guns make all of that far more lethal than it otherwise would have been. It's not something that just happens. It happens at the rate it happens in the United States because of policy choices that we have made as a nation. If the nation would simply adopt the laws that we have put in place here in Massachusetts on assault weapons, on registration, just those, we could cut gun violence all around the country by about 40%. And understand, it would also cut gun violence here in here in Massachusetts because people bring in guns from across state lines. So the need for this could not be more urgent. It is truly life or death. We cannot pass more meaningful gun legislation unless we get rid of the filibuster. So long as Mitch McConnell has a veto, then the National Rifle Association has a veto. And we can't get through things that 90% of Americans support. And I mean 90% of Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. That tells me that the filibuster is giving Mitch McConnell a veto that is costing lives here in Massachusetts and all across the country. It is time to end the filibuster. And we are close. I want to tell you exactly how close we are. 2. If we can hang on to the senators we've got on the Democratic side, and it's looking good, although anybody who wants to go help Maggie nearby, right, any of the senators, but they're looking good. If we can pick up 2 more, and yes, Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin, I'm looking at you, my guy, and John Fetterman in Pennsylvania, I'm looking at you. 2, both of them are committed to rolling back the filibuster. And that's how we have enough votes in the United States Senate to pass some sensible gun safety legislation that will save the lives of our children, our family members, our friends, and our neighbors. So thank you for the question. Let's do this.
Thank you.
And thank you for your T-shirt back there. I see Mom's Demand Action is in the house. Thank you.
Hi, Elizabeth. My name is Emily Green.
Hi,
from
Emily.
Greenfield.
Green from Greenfield. I got it. Okay, and your coat pink all the way.
Yes. And my question is about our foreign policy.
Yeah.
And we have to realize that we spend beaucoup of money to keep wars going. And that money, if we would stop doing that, could be brought back to this country and be able to use for social net programs that we desperately need money for. And so my question for you is, could you support stopping our sending weapons to Saudi Arabia, to all of, Israel, to all of the countries that we don't need to be sending weapons to?
I hear you.
And I would like to know what your stand is on that.
So can I take your question and actually just raise it another, I'll see your two-heart bid and raise it one. And that is, your senator sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. And I am the only member of the Senate Armed Services Committee who has voted against increasing the defense budget. And this is a big part of why. You have made a passionate argument about arms. I'm with you. Let me make one more that I just want to make sure everybody's in on here. And that is, yes, we could bring this money home, but also we need to spend more money on the State Department. We can't just fund the military to the furthest extremes and hollow out the State Department. The State Department, there are eyes and ears and our representatives on the ground. These are the folks who speak the local language. They understand the local economy. They help us be informed early about where problems are, where opportunities are, how best to support democracy in the areas they're in. So I'm just going to put in a pitch as well, and I do this repeatedly in the Senate Armed Services Committee. You wouldn't be surprised. We get one general after another who comes through, and often the first question I ask is about the importance of funding the State Department. And to their credit, the generals have said, in effect, if you don't put more money into the State Department, then you're just going to have to keep buying me more bullets. And I'd rather see the money go to the State Department. So, going to keep pushing on it. Thank you, Emily. Hi.
Hi, my name is Trevor McDaniel.
Hi, Trevor.
Thank you. I'm the chair of the Deerfield Select Board.
Woo!
Just down the way here. So I wanted to have you talk a little bit about infrastructure spending and infrastructure money, the bill that came through. Our town has been devastated by having to redo our infrastructure, mainly our sewer systems. When the EPA was developed in the 70s, 90% grants came to towns to build wastewater infrastructure. We're doing a $22 million expansion right now, and we've got about $1.6 million in a grant. We're working well with the USDA. They're a fantastic organization that has helped us make this affordable with 40-year loans. But the amount of money that we're getting just doesn't compare. You have 900 users paying for $22 million of infrastructure, and we have another whole plant, which is probably $20 million to fix. These are old infrastructure things. We want to know when that money from the infrastructure bill will make it to local communities like ours to really invest in our infrastructure.
Okay, so that is a great question. And let me do just a couple of quick things on it. The first one is, part of the reason we have such huge infrastructure bills coming due is because we've underinvested in infrastructure for 50 years now, and particularly the last 30 years. And just every time we think about things like the Republican tax cut that took $2 trillion out of our budget, and what did it produce? It produced more wealth for the billionaires and the giant corporations. And it also meant we were caught on the economic question. Do you run up the debt higher to try to do the infrastructure that needs to be done? Do you print more money? What's the way to be able to get the infrastructure that we need? And unfortunately, both Democrats and Republicans for too long have said, let's patch it as best we can. Well, patch it as best we can is not working anymore. So let me put it this way. We've done one big infrastructure bill, but it's important. I do not want to understate what it does, but it's just not enough. We got to come back next year. We got to put more into infrastructure. This is how our towns and cities survive. This is how our people survive. So count me in. Good.
Hi, Dave Richardson from
Hi, Dave.
Montague.
All right.
I have two hot buttons. First, I want to applaud you for going after corporate taxation shirkers.
Yes.
Anyway, my hot button is Citizens United and its elimination.
Yes.
We are too corrupted in Congress with lobbyists and people who can pay hundreds of millions of dollars to pervert our elections.
Yes.
Okay, other hot button.
Okay.
I got off on
You're
a
just
tangent.
you're just pushing mine too. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to skip it. I'm going to leave it at that.
You're gonna stop there?
Yeah, I'm old enough to have forgotten what I was going to say.
Okay, that's okay. That's all right. Bless your heart. Live in peace. I do want to say one quick thing about that, though. When we were talking about filibuster a minute ago, look, anybody who comes to you and says, I believe in sensible gun laws, but I'm not willing to redo the filibuster, then it's just a game. Because you're not. You're not going to do any kind of meaningful change unless we get rid of the filibuster. But I want to flip this the other way. When I said two votes to get rid of the filibuster, I want you to think about what else that means. It means 2 votes until we can actually pass a democracy protection law in this country. Every American citizen has a right to vote and to get that vote counted. Money in politics is not speech, and we should be pushing harder on it. Part of it will be about voting. The other one, I can't let it go without talking about it, and that is 2 votes to get rid of the filibuster, and Roe versus Wade becomes the law of the land. Everywhere. Yep. So there's a lot we need to do. Universal child care. There's a lot we need to do, but much of it lies through the path. We'll do everything we can through the other tools we've got available. And infrastructure is actually one of the ones we can move on 50 votes. But on the rest of this, we have got to get rid of the filibuster so we can do the work we need to do. That's my pitch. Yes, sir.
Art, you are going to be the last question.
Last question, make it a good one.
Hi, I'm Art Schwenger from Heath,
Hi, Art.
and I like simple things. You started out saying that our democracy is threatened.
Yeah.
What do I tell my neighbor, my 18-year-old or 20-year neighbor, who may or may not know what that means in terms of real terms? Can you say 1 or 2 of the most important things that we have under threat if our democracy is under threat? What will we lose?
If we lose the ability of voters to determine who represents us and ultimately what laws get passed, then we're a nation that doesn't even have a hope of working for everyone. It doesn't even have a hope of working for most everyone. It doesn't even have a hope of working for a lot of people. We become a nation that works for a tiny little group of very, very powerful people. They may be in government, they may not. They may run corporations, they may not. They may just sit on their bags of money. But the point is, all the power sucks up to a handful of people. And does that touch you on the first day? Maybe not. Not until somebody you know and love ends up with pregnancy that they need to terminate. Or somebody who's hoping to have children and needs fertility treatments that violate what that tiny little group says is permissible or not permissible. That's when it starts to touch you. Or when you have kids and you want to send them to public schools, and it turns out there's no more money for public schools because it's all been privatized. And there's nobody left who just educates all of our children, who takes them in and who loves them, and who says they're all welcome here, no matter what. Nope. It'll be education for those who can pay, and everyone else gets left behind. And how about that infrastructure? You can drink clean water if you live in one of the places that's favored for getting the infrastructure, and everybody else, well, boil your water. And good luck to you. And on and on and on through every part of your life. And that's the part that scares me. You know, my daddy was a janitor. I want to be a public school teacher. My chance was a college that cost $50 a semester. Why did it cost $50 a semester? Because the taxpayers put in enough money to say that even the kid of a janitor ought to have a chance. And my chance was education. We've already taken that away from our kids. And if we let this power concentrate more in people who don't want to pay their taxes, if we let this concentrate more among a half dozen people who only care about people who look just like them, who only understand the problems of double taxation. Breaking my heart, baby. If we let all of the power in this country further go to that handful up at the top, then we lose something so precious. And understand this, we don't lose it for one election cycle. Man, the Republicans get back in 2022, they got a plan. Block everything. Party of no. So that in 2024, they can say the Democrats got nothing done, right? They take this government back in 2024, they're going to make sure that they stay in power forever. And that's every part of your life. It's your health care, it's your housing, it's your transportation, it's the water you drink, it's the air you breathe, it's whether your children have any kind of future. That's what this is about. So I'm going to just wrap this up before I get both teary and furious about this. I am so grateful to you and to every one of you who shows up on a Saturday morning and says, I want to hear about how the IRS is getting funded. I want to think about economic policy. I want to hear about water infrastructure. But most of all, I want to invest in my democracy. I am grateful to you because this is the fight of our time. Thank you all for being here. Stay in this fight. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Paul. Well, I do it.